Hello, I'm Andre Scholz, all the way here from Germany. I'm a Winston Pro Staff member and technical advisor and Spey casting instructor for Winston. I kind of helped to design those rods, the Boron 2 X series. This is one of my favorite rods, the 13.378, even if I like to speak more about the real casting weight. So that's maybe even the first point I wanted to talk about. I want to give you some aspects about how to use a Spey rod like this, matching the right line, which is maybe the key factor, and then how to use the so-called Scandi style. So first of all, as I mentioned, this is in 7/8, but I really concentrate on the weight itself, that I need to really load the rod on my back cast. Loading the rod only means that I bend the rod, and then when I go forward I want to unload the rod. This is a key aspect. So I have to make sure that I find the right weight, the right line, whether it's a Scandinavian shooting head, what I prefer, or maybe a Skagit head. It has to be close into that range that the rod casts. That might be only 15 grains up and down to make it perfect. Then you want to have the right leader attached to get a good anchor for the D-loop, plus a running line of your choice. This is a monofilament one, you can use a coated one, that's your personal choice. The weight of the shooting head, the weight of the Skagit head, that's really important. If you have that, one of the key aspects in my eyes is when you do Spey, or in this case an underhand, or what people might call it even Scandi style casting, you want to have that perfect anchor. If you don't have a good anchor, you can't really fully load the rod on your back cast, and you want to load the rod on the back cast, since if you don't do that, you have to force the rod on your forward cast. So a good anchor would be, in this case, having the leader attached to the surface, and in the best case only the leader. It should kiss the surface, and it shouldn't really be far behind you, since you always got the risk that it really slips out of the water, slips through, and then you might hit something on your back cast. What you also don't want to have is that there's too much line in front of you, and it's more like a roll cast. So if half of the shooting head is still in the water, you can't really pick it up. So in the best case, your timing should be as good that the leader itself really kisses the water, the surface, and it really should stick there. So in the best case, that would be the motion. Secondly, to do that, and since we talk about an underhand cast, what you want to do is your right hand. I know most of the people, are especially coming from long Spey lines, they tend to use their top hand more, especially with longer rods and longer heads. They try to use this stroke, but with a short shooting head, using that technique, and that's why it's called underhand casting, you want to use your lower hand more. I would say even by 70% almost. So that way I try to move down my right hand closer to the reel, or to the reel seat, and try to use the rod as a lever. Means my left hand, when I cast over my right shoulder, is the most important one. So I try to grab just around that little knob here, and then whatever I do, most of the cast will start right from the middle of my belt. That will be my start position. Right hand is closer to the fulcrum here, and then, very important, the left hand will push away the rod from the start position. I create that D-loop, try to keep it smooth and gentle, let the rod work for you, and the right hand just keeps the rod into the right position. Left hand pushes, pulls back to the start position. So that way you can really feel and even see how the rod bends when you go back. Means there's already energy in the rod. Then you go back, the D-loop is formed behind you, leader is attached to the surface, and once you got the D-loop and the leader is attached, then you start your forward stroke, and it's the same idea. Instead of pushing with your right hand, you try to pull back with your left hand and let the rod work for you. What you want to do is that the rod unloads by itself. If I push the rod forward with my right hand, with the right hand in the top position, I will lower the rod very easily and very early, and it's more like a roll cast. If I use a lower grip position and I use my left hand more, it's much smoother. I can stop the rod higher, which is important as well. We'll mention that and point that out later. And I create that nice D. I'm just, well, got it. It's in running line here. One more time. So I got the D-loop here, push back and shoot the line out of a high position. One more time. Maybe one thing that I have to mention here, when you retrieve the shooting head or the gadget head, it has to be slightly outside the rod tip. So then you got all the way to load the rod for your back cast right there. So normally when you fish, you just make one back cast and you go. One more time. Retrieve the running line. Create a D-loop. One more time. Push, pull, and go. And then you can even see when you make that high stop, that's one more aspect. The rod can unload by itself. If I lower the rod, I have to use my energy. So it's more exhausting. If I stop high, the rod can really unload and take the energy that I got from the back cast and more or less transfer it to the shooting head. One more time. Retrieve the running line. Form a nice D-loop. Use your left hand. Do it 3-4 more times. And then once it's attached to the surface, you let it go. Well, maybe to summarize all those aspects, great setup combined with a smooth round move, a natural move that's very important. Using your lower hand more than your top hand. High stop position. Plus, and that's maybe one of the key aspects, that what we already mentioned, that nice smooth anchor. And in general, maybe to finish that, not to overpower the rod and let the rod work for you. That combined should make it easier and much more comfortable to use the Spey rod. Doesn't matter which kind of line you use, you can really fish a whole week without having pain in your back. So that's maybe, I know it's more than one aspect, but combining all those things make it smooth and easy. So maybe one last cast to finish it. Retrieve the running line one more time. Form a D-loop and let it go.